What's up guys, Sean here, and today I'm reviewing the 3.5-inch Swedged spear Hinderer Eklipse. This knife features a CNC flat ground blade with a stock thickness of 165 thousandths. The blade finish on this beautiful knife is a stonewashed battle black DLC blade. This knife has a handle length of 4.75 inches, giving this knife an overall length of 8.25 inches. This knife weighs in at 5.6 ounces and features a reversible clip for tip up, tip down right hand carry. This knife also has a titanium lock side with a thickness of 165 thousandths and a G10 scale combined with a titanium liner for a 165 thousandths thick show side. The blade locks up on a solid 1/4 inch diameter thumb stud, which is press fit into the blade. This makes for a very strong lockup. The thumb stud locking against the frame adds incredible strength to the sideways torque of the blade as the stresses are stopped by the entire handle, therefore alleviating stress from the pivot. Rick Hinderer designed the Eklipse to be a no-nonsense tactical tool ready for anything from the simplest cutting task to high-speed, low-drag operations. The 165 thousandths blade stock offers maximum cutting performance in a blade that has a tip strong enough to pry with. This means this knife is not going to be a great slicer, but more of a all-in-one type of deal that can withstand hard use and abuse. So what do I think about the Hinderer Eklipse? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, getting into what I think about the Eklipse. I've been carrying this knife now for about 2 weeks, and I've been putting it through its paces. I've sharpened it now 2 times. I first sharpened it before all my testing because the edge that was on it from the factory did not cut very well. So, what I did was I dropped the angle down and reprofiled this to approximately 18 degrees per side, and that helped this knife to cut a lot better. And then the second time I sharpened it was after all my testing, so that this is nice and super sharp when it goes back to its owner. Some of the things that I really like about this knife are it is made with excellent materials. You have titanium, you have a titanium liner, titanium frame lock, you have a steel lock bar insert, you have a lock bar stabilizer which acts as a over travel stop so you can't overextend the lock bar and unspring it. It has a great action and a small flipper tab. Very small, very comfortable. And that also assists in the carrying of this knife. So when this is riding in your pocket, you don't have a big flipper tab hanging off that's gonna bump into stuff, or you know how it goes. On the XM18, which is my favorite Hinderer, you can see you have a much larger flipper tab, and that sticks out a good bit more. So that is one thing that he improved on the Eklipse over the XM18. This knife has excellent ergonomics. This thing fits your hand like a glove. This literally melts in my hand. You have a nice little dip down in the back right here, right before your blade starts, and then you have some nice, well spaced out, pretty smooth, good feeling jimping, not too aggressive, but helps you get your thumb locked in right there on the back of the blade. You have 2 good sized finger choils, and the flipper tab sticks out and curves around your pointer finger as somewhat of a finger guard. And this all really allows you to be locked into this knife. And not only are you locked in, it feels extremely comfortable. Another great thing about this knife is its looks. This knife is extremely aesthetically pleasing. If you're like me and you're a sucker for nice looking hardware, thick titanium, nice jimping, detailed milling, kind of the, USA made overbuilt tank kind of look to it, this knife is really going to do it for you when it comes to the looks category. Not only that, but you have a ton of options for customization because Rick Hinderer makes replaceable hardware in many different colors and finishes, as well as aftermarket handle scales. He makes scales in G10, micarta, brass, and my favorite, titanium. These are an example of aftermarket G10 Hinderer scales. This is a two-tone blue and black G10 scale. And the hardware this knife is outfitted with is the bronze stonewashed titanium. When adding these optional upgrades or changes, it can get very pricey. For a G10 handle scale, you're looking at roughly $60, and for an entire hardware kit, you're looking at $110 to $120, and that is when you can get it. If you have to buy this stuff on the secondary market, prices can be astronomical. Now, even though I really do like this knife, there are a couple things that I'm not so fond of. One of those things is the lock bar access, which is not very great. There is no cutout or difference in height on the show size scale to allow you to easily access this lock bar. So one thing that would definitely make it a lot easier to get a good grip on this lock bar right here would be to add some jimping. That being said, it is not impossible to get your thumb into there, and it's not uncomfortable either. It just may be difficult to do if you are wearing gloves or under a stressful situation. You can still access this lock bar without issue, but I find oftentimes my thumb just wants to slide right past it. This is not a big deal, just a little pet peeve of mine. I like to be able to manipulate my knives without too much difficulty, but the knife still functions relatively well. One other issue with this knife is it is very difficult to sharpen if you are using a fixed angle system. This is something that most likely only applies to this Swedged spear blade shape. The reason for it being is with the swedge on the top of the blade, there is nowhere to get a nice flat, even, firm clamp on the knife because the flat grind tapers down from this point down and the swedge tapers from this point up. That being said, it can be done. It's just a little bit more difficult than usual. The last negative that I have for this knife is that it's not a great slicer. Due to the 169,000 thick blade combined with having a narrow blade profile does not give you a lot of space for the thickness to taper down. This is gonna dramatically hurt cutting performance and slicing abilities. However, this blade design also offers a lot of strength. So you have some give and takes here. It really depends what you're looking for and what your preferences are. With a nice sharp edge put on this knife, it will cut and it will do most EDC tasks without any issue. It's not going to be as slicey as something like a knife with a hollow grind, like a Yojimbo 2 or a Spyderco Gale Bradley 2. Those are both examples of knives that will slice through anything extremely easy. However, both of them will not hold up to nearly the amount of use and abuse that this knife right here will. Alright guys, so two knives that I would recommend over the Hinderer Eklipse are the Hinderer XM18. This sells for the same exact price as the Hinderer Eklipse. It also has a 3.5 inch blade, which is thick enough to handle prying and abuse. However, it is a taller blade grind, which allows it to taper down over a longer distance and slice a lot better. This knife is still by no means slicey, but it does cut a good bit better than the Hinderer Eklipse in my opinion. And with this jimping on the lock bar, it makes it a lot more fun to flip and manipulate. It also feels better in hand by a small margin because the Hinderer Eklipse is very, very ergonomic. Okay guys, this is an excellent knife. I just personally like the XM18 over the Eklipse. Another excellent knife, which is going to be just as capable, maybe even more capable, and also come in at a cheaper price point, is the Microtech SOCOM Elite Manual. This knife retails around $280. These are very hard to find in stock, but you can find these on the secondary market for around $300, which is what I got this one for. This is the Tanto model. It also comes in a drop point model. And the drop point model is very similar to the spear point blade shape. This also features a nice thick robust blade stock and a thick strong tip. It also has massive thumb studs that press up against the body of the knife, which adds lateral strength, and this thing is extremely solid. It's also lighter than the Eklipse. This knife also has a very good action, excellent ergonomics. It's a little bit more neutral because it only has one finger choil kind of deal instead of two. And it also has a nice thumb ramp right here and jimping on the back of the spine to position yourself however you want to get your cutting task done. One thing that I like more about the Microtech SOCOM Elite manual is this blade surprisingly cuts extremely well. This blade grind was done very well and comes down nice and thin, so you can get some very good cutting performance with this guy. Another thing that I like about the SOCOM Elite over the Eklipse is the blade length. You get an extra maybe 1/4 inch of blade length and probably a 1/2 inch of cutting edge. And the last thing that I like about the SOCOM Elite over the Eklipse is that this hard use, badass tactical folder is a good bit lighter than the Eklipse. I have to double check the weight, but if I had to guess, this comes in below 4 ounces, which is extremely impressive for a knife this size and this capable. Overall, the Hinderer Eklipse is a great offering by Rick Hinderer Knives, and I can say I would recommend this knife. However, this is not the knife that I would most recommend from Hinderer. So, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Thank you everybody for watching, and as always, stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next one.